All right, Maggie is here. Welcome, welcome, Maggie.
Phoebe, I am so excited to be here. This is such an opportunity, and I'm really excited to just spend a little time because, we live in this weird virtual world where you don't know how someone sounds. You just see these little still pictures of each other. So I am ready for this.
Oh my gosh, I know. And we've been kind of dancing around in little squares for the last couple of years. So we'll talk a little bit about that journey in just a bit. But I would love to introduce you to the world. So, where are you in the world? What are you offering the world? Just to start there simply, and then we'll dance around in lots of different other places.
I love that. All about it. Okay, so I live in Midcoast, Maine. So I'm just about a half an hour north of Portland, which most people are aware of as kind of our large hub. And yeah, so what do I offer the world? Ironically, my website and my business is called Maggie Moore World. And it's a combination of healing arts, dance arts, creative arts. And so I have spent my entire life engaging both a fine arts degree and kind of even, and I was going to say this to you, something that I've really become very resonant is, I don't know if you're aware of this, but I used to sing for bands for many, many years. And so I have a kind of a music background also. I've taught healing movements and I've been a Reiki practitioner. And so in 2019, I had one of those divine interventions from spirit that said, it's time to integrate your entire life. And so
Mm.
everything I offer is around basically helping women re-engage with their magical self, like that little kid self that is not afraid to be playful, not afraid to not only dance with abandon, but also really remember how intuitive they are, that we have all these gifts waiting for us. And I feel like we as humans get kind of shut down and really regulated by society. And there's just this wild woman waiting to explore. And so everything I do is offering of, I make talismans for people's healing jewelry. I teach a movement I created called Chakra Shaking, and it's all about using very small moments to basically wake up your energy and align your chakras. And there's just a thousand things I do, but we'll go through all of it. But ultimately, everything's about magic. So if it's about magic, I love it.
Wow, Magic, you are in the right place. That is one of our main archetypes at nOMad. I don't know if you know that, but we have the archetype, the explorer, obviously, traveling, the alchemist, magic, and then the lover, which is all about our community and connection. So yeah, you're in the right place. Okay, I got chills when you were talking about you felt you got this call in 2019 to integrate everything, because I think I had a similar calling like around like end of 2018, 2019. So I would love to hear about like what was that call? What was that divine intervention? What did that look like?
Phoebe, you and I have all these weird situations, and we can share more about that. But when I was really young, I was pretty psychic. And it was something that I did not share with anyone. I was brought up Catholic. It wasn't so much that I was shunned to explore that part of myself, but it was just one of those things that kind of faded. And I honestly don't even remember a life that wasn't me kind of exploring that side, but I tragically lost my first husband in 2013. And the moment of his passing was a end of a karmic relationship that I had carried through many lives. And what I've learned now, about 11 years later, was that there was a suppression of my own magic in that relationship. And it wasn't that he wasn't a wonderful person, but there was an acceptance of me being an artist. It was easy to understand, right? I'm an artist, I'm a jeweler, that's substance that, you're making a product. But in the same realm, I had become a Reiki practitioner and I was teaching all these healing movements. And what I found was I had to explore them on my own. And then I kind of had the separation between them. And it wasn't so much a blaming of that relationship, but it was more about a disconnect between those two being possibly linked.
Mm.
And in the process of losing that relationship, I found that my creative self I started writing music again, all these things that I had surrendered with this. It was much more of a traditional relationship. I had felt kind of like I couldn't do things on my own. I had a very big poverty mentality of, well, I'm an artist and I need a man to support me, and he's going to be the moneymaker and I'm going to be home, whatever. And ultimately, that all guided me to finding the absolute love of my life in 2016. Totally manifested. I mean, we're talking crazy, like writing it down, like 2 weeks later, finding this human. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
Came with little bonus children. I'm now a bonus mom to 2 little girls. All this crazy stuff happened. And even though he's a scientist and he's very much built in logic, from the moment I met him, I could speak to him about this other part of me, this kind of spiritually connected, guided, open-minded person. And I started to recognize that it had been kind of suppressed and almost, it's almost like I kind of assumed that everyone who was a Reiki practitioner was psychic. So I meet people from the other side, I would get messages, and I just kind of assumed that's what you did. But it was really draining, and I focused all my energy into my jewelry making. In 2019, it was in a show in Chicago. Oh, I was at a jewelry show. It was a craft show in downtown Chicago in 100-degree weather.
Mm.
I had gone with a couple friends. We had set up the night before, and it was so hot that at 8 o'clock at night, I still got a severe sunburn. Because I was like, oh, we'll be packed, it's fine, I'll just get it. So when I go to share my jewelry the next day, I'm lobster red, and I'm sitting in this tent with no shelter, no wind, over 100 degrees, and the staff of this show kept bringing bags of ice to us.
Okay.
Melt. So I would stick the ice in my skirt just so I would not get heat stroke.
Yeah.
And when people would come in, they weren't looking at my jewelry. They didn't care that it had, deep meanings and I had like all of this energy. They were like exhausted, or they were commenting on how I looked like a lobster. And so I wrote myself a letter about the hell yes.
Mm.
I said, basically, if I keep saying yes to all these things that are okay, by the time I get to that hell yes, I have separated myself into so many parts.
Mhm.
There's no room for that real magic, right? Like
Yeah.
you can't dividedly do it. So I came home and I sat down with my husband and said, um, something is telling me to stop doing this. Like, this is not my path. And it was like something split open in my mind, and then all of a sudden, all of the psychic experiences I've had started moving.
Wow.
Having memories of what I saw from childhood to now. It was like a kind of divine light had just, yeah. And that's really what happened. And I just have been moving forward ever since. And it's been a process. I think that I feel, you and I met a couple years ago, and I think that the timing I was not ready yet, because I was still in my little, I call it my butterfly goo,
Mhm.
because I felt that I didn't have the confidence quite yet, because I hadn't finished my journey. I had, I hadn't broken out and dried my wings off yet. And there was hesitation to own all of it. And now I'm to the point where I am fearless around expression. And so that's mine. I want to know yours, though. I want to hear more about what happened to you at this 18-19 session.
Oh, well, this is all about you. I mean, I'll share briefly in a moment, but I'm just smiling because there were so many things. I was like, ooh, oh my, I just have so many comments. Like, I can't wait until March when we're in Mexico together and we'll get to be in human form next to each other. And we'll get to hear and unpack all of these stories and see how all of our stories are connected because it's so beautiful. But then also just speaking to that, when you're talking about in your goo and you weren't ready 2 years ago when we first connected. And guess what? The first time you and I meet, we're going to be with the monarchs taking flight. I felt that. I was like, ah,
Yeah, the timing of that is so radically divine, or even the fact that we're going to be doing this global retreat, right? This
yeah,
idea, there's something that is happening universally where people need real experiences. And yes, of course, they're finding us through Zoom and they're finding us through this kind of global, I don't know, virtual world, but it's giving them permission to say yes to finding all these amazing retreat leaders who are claiming their space and making real things happen. So yes, I think that I can't wait to be on that retreat. And I can't wait to then experience that myself. I mean, I'm using March as my launching point to be able to find co-creators in our group to really recognize where everyone's skills and gifts are and how do we enhance them by working together.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and what you're speaking to in terms of this container of the global retreat, and some people are going to listen to this as a podcast. So if you're listening as a podcast, you'll just have to go and sign up and get all of the replays and join us in other times. But yeah, that is one of our strong. We always have to look like in nOMad, we're always asking why, like what's our purpose here, making sure it's in alignment. And that's what I was seeing was that kind of similar to what you were saying of being in the goo for a couple of years ago. I think we all were, right? The pandemic was that invitation to go inward. We all were forced to be introverted for that period of time. And yeah, we had the luxury of seeing each other on squares, like little Zoom squares for a while. But then we were like, okay, did enough of this inner stuff. Now I want to go and be with people, like physically, like you said. And I think that people are a little still shell shock in a sense. Like we made some, and I will say this from my perspective too. Like I think that I made some choices during that time out of the space of chaos that I'm like, ooh, that like why did I make those choices? Right. We made choices and now we're a little bit questioning ourselves. And it was just that we were discovering, like you said, we were all in the goo. We were rediscovering who we are and who we're becoming. And we all had some sort of moment like you where you're like, enough is enough. This isn't okay. I want to say yes to life. And I think we all are collectively reemerging into that yes. And like we want to step out and go, ooh, yeah, I want that, but they're not quite sure how to do it or trust that decision. So the global retreat, I feel, is us creating that safe space in Zoom where all of us are gathering. You get to meet us, you get to continue to work with you, right? And now the other guides and build that relationship and let everybody, get nurtured and experience and go, oh yeah, Maggie's hosting a retreat. Going, right? So it is this beautiful place for all of us to just get to know each other and experience each other. And March, it'll be like that too for all of us as the leaders. So yeah, thanks for taking us in that little rabbit hole. So you're saying yes now. So what are you saying yes to? Like, what does this look like?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because I think that, when you have the powerful yes, you also have the powerful no. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that definitely the big difference that I have made, and I actually made sure to do this even with you, was that as much as that, I have a teacher told me once that the difference between that kind of spiritual yes and anxiety is
Mm-hmm.
spiritual yes, the real hell yes is calm.
Mm-hmm.
That the kind of spastic, oh my God, I need to join this and I need to do this. And that actually is sometimes a dysregulated nervous system that's just, kind of looking for the next buzz, what's going to fix me or any of those types of things. So when you and I met up again, when I came to the networking group, which was the timing of that was just her. And I literally had to like force myself to show up because I was like not in the right state of mind. And I did it anyways. And it was like an immediate reaction to feeling grounded, feeling safe, feeling heard and seen. But it also allowed me to then step back and ask myself, what is the yes in this? And it really was the yes in being exposed, the yes in sharing who I am. And so what am I saying yes to right now is allowing myself to authentically share who I am out in the world. I am learning that less is more. I am learning that my gift of holding space without actually sharing a lot more than that. Like it's not about advice giving. I have found that even things like marketing and social media have become currently you have to do this if you only do this, if you take this one thing, if you say this one thing, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like it's just masking our own guided path.
Mhm.
And so it's getting quiet. What am I doing? My yes is getting quiet. And then really thinking about what does my life look like?
Mhm.
Start claiming these parts of myself. And for me, nOMad is the guided community that I have waited for a very long time.
Wow.
And that's really what I'm getting. And I love because they're so different. The people are so fabulously individualized,
Mhm.
not like some enmeshed, like we're not like it's not like a little group where everyone has the same, concept or whatever. Everyone's coming in with their own flavor. And so it is a cacophony of a celebration of minds and ideas. So that is really saying yes to partnership. And the other massive thing has happened to me, and I am curious to know for you, and also for anyone listening, the biggest issue I faced in the time of COVID was not only am I an extroverted person in an introverted state, right? In this crazy, like everyone's, thinking, but I went through a lot of loss with friendships. Like there were people that left my life, and I'm still experiencing it. Even in 2024, I am in the process of saying goodbye to friendships I've had for 25, 30 years, and not really to my liking. Like really, like it's been kind of forced upon me. And I have to say that for a little bit of time this year, I moved back into a little bit of the victim of why is this happening to me,
Mhm.
and you can't always go to the, oh, this is happening for me. This is fantastic. Like it's hard losing people that have been a part of your journey. And but as I have digested and made space, just once again, right? You're having to kind of recommit to all of these people in your life. And if they're not recommitting to you,
Yeah.
what I realized is they're making space for me to be in alignment with other leaders. And
Mhm.
that the people that I now need to attract and want to spend time with are honestly those like you who in some ways may be alone a lot of the time because you have to hold space for others, and then you have to be separate. You separate yourself as all those people that you've done the work for, they all bond, right? It's like you kind of, you're the grand master and they all kind of bond, and then you walk off your stage and go back to your hut and go, oh, okay, who's there for me, right? And I have learned that there's a gift in that, because the more quiet I can get and the more I can offer the space of you, of finding people that are ascending at the same time, that are truly ready for owning who they are, being transparent and communicative and loving. It's not so much about saying goodbye anymore to these people. It's actually saying goodbye to an old script that I was desperately hanging on to because I didn't know if I was going to make it if I didn't.
Yeah.
And now I am clearly aware that the journey ahead it's going to be beautiful
Yeah.
for lots of people.
For so many. Yeah. For all of us. Oh my God. You said so many good things. And I just want to emphasize some of the things you said. One is the yes, right? Like you were saying, we're so trained to feel the butterflies in our body when it's a yes and we're excited, especially when we talk about love, right? Oh my God, I made so many wrong choices based on the butterflies, but that was anxiety, like you said. And I love what you were just be like, I just am saying it again. So people, if they miss that, like hang on to this, right? The yes is calm, as you said, right? It feels grounded, because I think that's something that we are learning now, at least where I'm at my journey. I'm seeing more and more people recognizing that, because we did have so many of these places of pockets of anxiety the last several years. Um, the other piece that you were speaking to was happening for me versus happening to me, and the victimhood. And you know what? It's okay. Like you said, if we're always, oh, it's happening for me, that's spiritual bypassing, right? Oh, yeah, everything's rainbows and butterflies. So we do have to, there is a process where we do have to be in that victim state. But then we get to that, like, ugh, enough is enough, right? And the other piece that you were speaking to, I just want to reflect on too, is yeah, I 100% to answer your question. For me, said goodbye to a lot of people. The past 4 years or so, since the pandemic, one or two from death, but also from, just the death of that relationship. And I do believe it is to make space. Like you said, I really do believe it's to make space. And what we created at nOMad is for leaders. I've told all of you in circles before, like I really truly believe in my heart and my bones and my blood that the healers are the new leaders of the world. It's not who we're electing or looking up to. It's the healers that are empowering each individual to have those tools within themselves, to make those tools, to stop the scripts, like you said, to get rid of those and stop the conditioning, so that we really see each other. And so that can be very isolating at times, right? Because you are stepping out of the norm. And I experienced this as a retreat leader for years and a teacher trainer, where I felt so alone because, yeah, you do have to, it's not like I never thought of myself in a hierarchy, but you have to have boundaries, right? You can't get so intertwined with people if you're guiding them. That's their job to bond, right? You hold the space for them. You hold that space for their own transformation, those bonds that they need to have for each other. But yeah, you like, I used to have so much separation anxiety, and this journey has really prepared me for it, because it's like, oh, people are going to come and people are going to go. I used to be like, oh, they're leaving. And now it's like, okay, I was here for their path, and now they're going to walk with somebody else, whether it's a teacher or I'm a friend to them or whatever. So just to like say, yeah, hell yeah, sister, I got you. I completely connect with you on that. And
And thank you for saying that, Phoebe, because I think that, it's interesting because I think that leaders in general, we don't usually put it on anyone else, right? Like the assumption is, don't worry, we got it. It's kind of like the parent of the group. It's like, your arm is bleeding, but you're like, no, 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 let's make sure that everyone's got snacks, And it's interesting because I think what you just said is so beautiful, and it's almost like the Buddhist approach, right? You have to enter in relationship with a sense of detachment, which is, I don't know how long our journey is here together. I'm just really grateful you're here.
Mhm.
I'm really grateful you're here. And I'm grateful that you have taken, I think if we all approached anything we did, right, in that full moment of being present, we do know those are the places that we are offering ourselves to the possibility of finding out who we really are. It's when we think we have all the answers, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we need to allow ourselves to really engage the unknown, and yet the unknown is always all get out. And so when you find people who are willing to be those vulnerable, like I love the tenets of nOMad, right? We're talking about all this, what were you, wasn't magic, it was the alchemist, right? The alchemy and the love and the traveler, it's like those Carolyn Mace and all of her archetypes and that whole idea. Oh, what a gorgeous concept to think about ourselves on this journey together and alone at the same time. There's that intertwining, right? We land on that path. It's like being on a hiking trail and finding someone, and then on the way back you cross them again. And
Yeah.
there's recognition, you kind of like, hey, nice to see you again. And there's just this, it's almost like it's like that baby dopamine hit, it's like that, right? That real natural dopamine of like, oh, I see you, I see myself in you. You see, like, oh, you're having a good day too. Yes, so am I, and I love this idea that in this group that you have created, this container, even in the container of it, of inviting seekers and leaders, there's all these awesome groups that get to kind of coexist and then separate and then heal and open and expand and then return back together. And that's a gift. I mean, what a gift to the world. And yeah, so kudos to you and thank you. And thank you for inviting me because it's, I think that I don't know about you, but I'm someone who, I think because I was saying this a little bit earlier, that I was a full-time jeweler for a really long time. I had this huge wholesale company. I had like 60 galleries across the US. It was all about selling a product. Even back then, every single product I made had a collection and a name and an emotion behind it and like a reason. And I was a very different jeweler than everyone else. Like it was kind of a bizarre thing. But the people that were attracted to me were attracted to the energy that I put in everything.
Yeah.
But it was a product. It was something I was selling. And now it's like you're marketing yourself, like an idea. And really, I find it really difficult because it's like, well, what is someone going to get out of working with you? And you're like, I have absolutely no idea because it's based on their journey, right? Like I'm not like stamping on the back of their hand saying, well, you went through this process, which that means blah, 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 right? It's and I think that's ultimately why I engage in the word of magic, which is there are no bounds to what that looks like. When I have worked with people, I work a lot on them remembering who they were when they were younger and kind of what their team was. Sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's unicorns, sometimes it's I've had people who the concept of their God energy is a garden gnome or some kind of avatar. I had this client once who was very kind of closed. It wasn't that she was closed down. She held her cards very close in. And I wasn't sure how to engage her. And I thought, oh God, she's going to think I'm a total whack job. And as I was getting prepared to do this long distance energy healing on her, I I saw behind me this centaur. I was like, there is no way I am going to be telling this woman that I see a centaur behind me. And it kept pushing me like you need to let her know. And it was kind of, no. And I finally just said to her, what's your relationship with centaurs? And her entire face was like, oh my God, when I was a little girl, and she became a completely different person. And
Wow.
we literally like set a whole intention that our session was based on calling back her centaur.
I love it.
And I've been given permission to talk about that specific thing, but ultimately the idea is that we think we have these really odd parts of ourselves. We think we're this like odd, like odd spectrum person. And you're like, no, 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 no. Like we're all floating around in this world. We're just looking for other people to hold our hand and say, tell me more. Let's engage.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you're saying we're all just a bunch of centaurs hanging out in nOMad. That's such a beautiful story, right? Because it's almost like you gave her permission to connect back to the centaur. And maybe that was her letting her cards come further a bit away from herself now because she's like, oh, I have that connection again. What a gift to have received.
And it is, and it's funny because it happens a lot. It doesn't, it does happen when I'm doing energy work, but sometimes like I'll just be with someone and I'll just have this weird knowing of like, yeah, or they'll have some loss. I had a client she's not super into humans. Like she's just not, she's not a big fan of humans. It's all good.
Yeah.
but she had a horse when she was little, and that horse was everything. And we called that horse in, and once again, it was, I really do feel like we need permission to play. We need permission to, as I mentioned at the beginning, to get wild, to
Yeah.
be seen. You know, a lot of the work that I do, one is extreme from the idea of when I do chakra shaking, I do these 20-minute dance breaks. They're in the mornings, and my whole intention is to be as playful as possible so you cannot be in your mind, right? It's really, I've taught tons of movements that are all about being like authentically to that. And I love that. That's what other people do. But what I do is like, we're gonna spend 20 minutes with you being a rock star. Like really, I'm gonna get you to sing, you know, we're gonna, by within 15 minutes, you're gonna be singing Rockin' Robin. And so dorky. It's so playful. Like, I mean, it's just insane. Today we did Harry Styles this morning. We did Harry Styles.
Nice.
But the idea is that it's almost like tricking your brain, right? You're tricking your brain, you're opening your chakra, you're doing those things, but it's really intense. And then I calm you down and we go into our day. Whereas in this Wild Woman Witness group that I've been doing, which I love, it's all it is the active part of listening, right? Which is how do you hold space for someone without taking it on, solving their problem? And
Yeah.
that's such a massive need we have, especially as caretakers and leaders, that we don't hold too much space, right? That we don't take on. And so, yeah, so, but ultimately, all of it to me returns to this idea of claiming our magic,
Yeah.
just being our magical selves. And
Oh, I'm so glad you're in this world, Maggie, to help us reclaim the magic. It's so important. So, yeah, I know that you are not announcing a retreat because that's going to be the springboard in March for when we're together. But what do you have, like when you're talking about these circles and chakra shaking, what does that look like for people to experience that? And they're getting a little piece of that at the global retreat, right, for a live session. But yeah, can you share that experience with us a little bit more on how to.
yeah, so I got a couple different ways. So, it's interesting because I am definitely I'm claiming my multi-dimensional self. So there are pretty much four ways in which you can work with me. The one is that I really do love making talisman jewelry. I make energy, I work with crystals and gemstones, and I help teach you how to clear your energy. So there are actual crystal meditation classes that I do that I love teaching. And so that's an opportunity. It can be done online, but what I do is I help, especially for people who have a hard time meditating,
Mhm.
teach you how to use crystals on your body while you're meditating. And ultimately, because you have these solid objects on you, you can't move. And it's a wonderful way to force you, but I really believe in their earth magic. They are pretty amazing. And then when we move it into the talisman creation, that's you and I in collaboration, creating a piece of jewelry that connects you to the intangible feelings that you are working through. And
Mm,
that's something that I'm actually been writing a book about it. It's all about tangible magic and this idea of what do we do on a daily basis to keep ourselves grounded and in those emotions that we really want to feel.
yeah.
Um, And so the other two ways that I work together is I currently, so in workshop form, my chakra shaking movement form can take a much larger, and in our global retreat, it will be a much bigger version. But currently, I do a Zoom class at 8 a.m. on weekdays in Eastern time, because I'm in May. And it's a 20-minute dance class. And it's really about shaking your shadow, waking yourself up to your essence, and aligning yourself for whatever that day is going to be for you. But my last thing, and this is kind of where like it's not, I mentioned the witness group, and there is witness groups that happen all the time. And this is a free service right now. I take small groups and we commit to a small amount of time. You can be anywhere in the world. But I'm starting in January a 3-month awakening journey. And it's the Wild Women Awakening Journey. And I'm really excited about it. It's going to be for only, I think right now I've committed to having 6 women in the group. And so it's a combination of all the work I just talked about. You get a flavor of all of it, plus opportunity that all 6 of us are gonna, or all be 7 with me, but all 6 of you will be holding space, doing some wild women witness, everything. And this is the launching point of how I will create my retreat.
Mhm.
Time it's over, we'll have done our March retreat, and I will be ready to take that to the next level. So
Ooh,
my goal is to be able to take those 6 people on a retreat, but I'm just,
yes.
you know what I mean? Like, I'm just manifesting that right now. So that is, hopefully that wasn't too much information, but
No, that was the perfect amount of information. And I know that there's going to be a link under this at the global retreat for people to click on and choose the experience that they want to have and sign up and continue the relationship with you. But definitely they're coming and experiencing your live session inside the global retreat. Um, that sounds so beautiful. I mean, you and I talked about that of building out a program that will lead to a retreat. And I think more and more people want to join things like that, right? We want to feel connected. A lot of times I see people are in their own physical communities and they're not really finding their like-minded brothers and sisters. And it's like, oh, I found them here on Zoom. But it's like, do I ever get to see them in human form? And it's such a whole nother layer of experience together, right? And what I've seen this shift over the last 10 years of hosting retreats is when I first started out, a lot of people came to do their own personal development, right? Healing, transformation. Maybe they're going through a big period of change in their life and they wanted to do that. And the byproduct was they got to travel and, oh, they got to meet some new friends. And now what I'm seeing is people are looking for experiences with people. They want to do the healing in community. Like they're very intentional about that. They kind of did that accidentally before, but now it's like, oh no, I need to go and be with my peeps in, a beautiful location. So I'm excited to see what comes for you and your group. That's so cool. And maybe somebody who's sitting here listening to us now, they're like, ooh, when is that one in January? I want to sign up.
yeah, it starts on the 12th, and I'm doing an early bird special through the end of November. So if they listen to this beforehand, just go to Maggie Moore World and just head yourself over to Wild Women, and you
Yeah.
love to have you do that. Yes. And obviously I'm an open book. I really love being, and I mean, we do tons of stuff. We do oracle card readings. I do intuitive reading, like all that stuff gets blended in. But I think that ultimately, yeah, if depending on what it is someone is interested in, it's really that exploration, right? It's the exploration of what do you want to take on this journey today? So
Yeah. Well, and I like this idea, what you were saying before, because you're bringing the talisman in there as well. It sounds like playing with magic and the intangible, but also making it tangible. That's something that I am working on in my own like human form journey because I feel like I'm very much like experiences. I have the art of dance. I've never really been in the fine arts. So like working with things in like material form has been sort of a challenge to me, I think, at times. And so that's really cool for somebody to do a little bit of that crossover, whether it's they're very material, they're very 3D, they get to go into that intangible space with you, or somebody who's like me, who's like intangible and wants to like walk away with something physical, right? That's really powerful.
and it is, and I think you're right. I think ultimately, especially too, then it's part of the prompting of the book that I've been working on, is that we live in this, here we are on Zoom. It's not like we can reach in touch. We're not going to give each other a hug at the end of this, right? We're going to close our computers. And yet there's this, as you were talking about, even people wanting to heal in community or being together and finding partners and friendships and all those things. There's something that happens when we put on that favorite sweater, that ring, that, maybe it's something that they have of their grandmother, or, it has meaning to them. And I have learned that we're spirits, right, in physical form. And if we create altars or places that bring us home, there is something about being able to hold on to something, right? During this process, someone who feels that they are dancing through the intangible to have a crystal in their hand. Even in the beautiful workshop we recently did that you led us all, and we had these crystals that right, that's the point. There's something about the energy in which we give off. If we can infuse these objects with our own energy, we remind ourselves that we're truly that powerful. And yeah, because we're here for a while, we might as well. We're here for a while, so we might as well have a human experience, but yeah.
I know being a human is hard, but yeah, we signed up for it. Our souls did sign up for this journey, so might as well, make the most of it.
We'll be back there. We'll be intangible someday, but not
Yeah.
today.
No, not at all. Not right now. Yeah, and you and I need to talk about that book offline, but I'm excited to hear more about that. Uh, Maggie, is there anything else? Like, where have we not danced yet that you want to explore? Or are we wrapping it up? Are you feeling good?
I feel like that was perfect. I feel like that was absolutely perfect. And yeah, and once again, I just so grateful for this opportunity. And I believe that I did have one thing I wanted to say, and I was curious, and you welcome to respond to this is
Okay.
one of the things that I find really interesting about these leadership programs is that we all could be saying the same thing, right? You have all these gorgeous humans that are gonna stand on a stage together. What I love about it is their tone of voice, how they look, how they move through life. When you have found your guide. And it
Mm,
doesn't even just be one, it could be all of us.
yeah.
And I am so grateful for the opportunity because we are moving, shifting into the feminine belief. This is not competition. This is collaboration. We are here to hold space for each other. So I guess there's just this intuitive push for me to say, which is allow yourself to explore all of it, everyone, engage it all. And if for some reason one thing changes or something else and you get attracted to one person to another, whatever it is in your life, I just feel that there's room for everyone. There's room for all our centaur energy and our unicorns and crazy garden gnomes, and whatever is showing up for you, someone is going to match your energy, and just own it and enjoy the heck out of it.
Oh my God. Yes, yes, yes. That I just want to reflect on that. Yeah, 100%. You got like the beginning seed of what nOMad was. And I probably shared that. Like I was alone teaching yoga, but I always knew the nOMad Collective was going to be just a diverse group of people with different gifts to share with the world. And it wasn't about just my voice, it was all of our voices. And that's what we're doing here at the Global Retreat is we're all in space together. And I want everybody to be like, oh, I'm going to Maggie's and now I'm going to Breeze and now I'm going to go and experience Lorraine and Suba and then, oh, I'm going to go on this retreat and, oh, I'm going to take this program and like, there's no, I'm only studying with one person or I'm only doing this with one person. We're all just learning from each other. We're learning from each other here right now. Yeah, it's just so much fun. Why not?
No,
Right?
I think it's great. And yeah, and I think that you being the catalyst, that you're the glue that's bringing all these little pieces, this mosaic together. And, and of course you have your own gifts as a leader, and it's a wonderful thing. So yeah, no, I just felt that little push to be like, really to make sure that people remember to just keep exploring, explore all of us, because we're here.
I love it. Oh my gosh, Maggie. I'm so grateful you're here inside the Global Retreat. I'm really grateful that you're just inside nOMad, our community all together, because you are such a light. And I love that we were talking before we pressed record, like you have this beam of light behind you. So it does look like you're in another realm at some point. And I just think that that's just representative of who you are, because you are this very light being. And I am so excited to meet you in human form and give you a hug. Yeah, and I know everybody here who's listening right now is going to have so much fun with you and get to explore their centaurs, their garden gnomes, their unicorns. I can't wait to see what shows up for me.
Oh, it happened.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, Maggie, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's fantastic.
yeah. All right. Have a beautiful day.